April 1975, the last month of the Vietnam War. 18 North Vietnamese divisions had surrounded Saigon, and civilians desperately trying to flee from the clutches of the communist victors. The Ford administration announces Operation Babylift, a humanitarian effort to rescue Vietnamese orphans.
These 2,000 Vietnamese orphans are all in the process of being adopted by American families. This is the least we can do, and we will do much, much more.
When you're president of the United States, you take the good and the bad. My father knew he did the right thing, trying to go to Congress, trying to get money to help South Vietnam. We had been there for so many years, and it was important for us to support those people that had supported us. You had so many children that had been fathered by American servicemen, and we couldn't leave those kids there. It is love, not blood, that raises kids. I think what affected my dad's heart so much is when he was a baby, he was born into a family where he had a physically violent biological father, and thank God he had a great mother who fled that marriage. I think that gave Dad some kind of empathy for what these orphans were going through, because he basically had been abandoned by his own biological father. I've met several babies that were on those initial flights. When I meet and hear their stories of what they're doing with their life today, and the joy in their face, knowing they got to come here, have a life, have a chance, I have to say it brings tears to my eyes.
My situation in Vietnam was not good. My first memory was walking down an alley and seeing people coming in with guns. I was holding someone's hand, and I was short enough that when they were shooting everybody in the alley, I didn't get killed. And then I just remember like the silence. And then all the family members coming into the alley and just screaming and crying and finding their dead relatives.
It was one of the horrifying, lasting images of the war.
My uncle was a general in Ho Chi Minh's army. There was a rumor that Ho Chi Minh had planned to kill Amerasian children after the war to kind of annihilate the US influence in Vietnam. I remember a couple times just sitting in the corner and watching my family and knowing that I was a shameful thing because I was half American. Operation Babylift was planned to try to save us.
It was a very, very difficult situation because the South Vietnamese government was in disarray, but they were still in charge. Time was running out, and in order to process an orphan to the United States, normally that would take months, but they waived all of those conditions and gave the green light to the United States to go ahead and evacuate all the babies.
I remember just inside feeling very anxious about going somewhere that I didn't know. We woke up the next day, got put into buses, and we were driven to the airport.
My mom walked me up the stairs of the first flight, and then she left the airport, and at the last minute they decided that the flight was too full, and so they took me off the flight and put me on the flight the next day.
They had a C-5A aircraft to operate this flight. A C-5A is not designed to carry babies. It's designed to carry troops and weapons.
Downstairs, the older kids and the adults had to make do on blankets stretched out on the steel floor. Cargo straps substituted for seat belts.
I was at the airport that day, and there were over 300 people on there, including babies, children, volunteer nurses, doctors, so on. I watched it take off to the east, and everything looked pretty normal. About 20 minutes later, I went outside and took a look around, and I saw this column of black smoke about a mile or two from the end of the runway. And I said, oh my God, I think that's the C-5A.
Vietnamese soldiers continued to look for victims buried overnight in parts of the plane.
Tragically, that first flight crashed, and numerous members of the crew and numerous children died in that crash.
Just a loud explosion all at once, and I looked back and saw the doors falling off like they really never was attached, and blankets and debris flying throughout the aircraft, bodies flying, tumbling, and a lot of screaming.
In response, 2 individually chartered Pan Am 747 flights operated by Pan Am crews stepped in to keep that mission going.
I started flying when I was 26, and I flew for Pan Am from 1969 to 1978.
On April 4th, I had a 2-day layover in Hong Kong. We had been out having dinner and came back to the room. We turned the TV on, and on the TV, they were showing the crash. We were absolutely petrified. There's a knock on the door. The bellboy gives us a telegram.
The telegram spelled out what we were doing, that we were evacuating over 400 orphans.
This was a war zone. They had to volunteer to go into a war zone and take the risk for their own lives to help save these orphans.
People were a little scared, and I started getting calls from my crew. They were saying, "You're not going into a war zone." We had a full crew of 15, now we were down to 9, which was really barely legal. It was a very emotional experience.
I was more excited to be part of that mission. I was holding back tears going into those buses, and the nurses had a hard time giving these children up.
I was very busy organizing. We were stocking diapers in the closets and making bottles and setting up bassinets. I didn't even have time to feel scared or even think of that.
I never worked so hard in my life. A lot of the children were sick. They had measles, hepatitis, meningitis.
And they just kept handing me babies, one after another, and I tucked them into these little bassinets.
I remember having some of the children that had survived the crash the day before. And they were all sitting together. They were very scared.
To think of, the desperation of the people in Vietnam. To be able to send your own children away and not knowing what was going to happen to them at all. That was heartbreaking, really.
After you had the tragedy of the first military plane crashing, it just heightened what was going on. When that first flight came into San Francisco, there's just this picture of my father taking one of the first babies off the plane. I think my father will be remembered fondly.
My parents could not have any children, so they adopted me. Life in America for me when I was small was pretty hard. Growing up in a community with just Caucasian and African American people, and me being the only Asian, it was tough because I was different from everyone else.
It was a huge adjustment. I was adopted into an all-white family in a very white part of Portland. I was really blessed. I have the same friends that I've had since kindergarten, and they were the ones that taught me English, pointing to things and telling me, the words.
It was hard to kind of assimilate into a culture that you were never prepared to be put into. You're constantly questioning yourself, and you're always blaming yourself if something goes wrong. I feel that my life would definitely be different if I didn't get on that flight.
The takeaway from this is the ripple effect of all these babies that grew up And now they're 50 years old or older, and the good they've done for America, gotten into careers, raised families, all those kind of things. This country was always founded on bringing people in and welcoming people. How could you not welcome these 3,000 babies that did nothing, and they got stuck in the middle of a war, and it was our job to get them out of there and give them a chance for life.
Operation Babylift was just, in my opinion, a mission that should be in every history book, that helped many people become who they are today.
We are living our American dream just like you. You just have to remember that these kids that you have supported to come over, they will make something of themselves if they are given that chance.
People sacrificed their lives for me. I joined the Army out of high school because I wanted to serve the country that saved me. My heart beats for America, and the people that sacrificed to bring me here and give me the amazing, amazing life I've had.
409 of us were carried onto your plane. After this day, your life would never be the same. Changing diapers and feeding us all, holding us in your arms, many of us very small. It was hot and humid the day we arrived. We were handed to loving parents. Yes, we survived.
I'm so thankful for what your father did, and the time and effort he put into that, and the heart he put into that to save my life specifically, but for all of us orphans.
We're blessed to have you here, and growing up in America, and it just meant so much to him. So to see something 50 years later, that's just amazing. This beautiful human being. So God bless you.
Thank you. There's no words for what Operation Babylift means to me. The only word I can use is life.